Alright everyone, welcome back. So today begins our 2024 playoff previews for the first round. And I'm very excited for this year. This year I think it's going to be a really fun playoffs. And starting off with a series that I think a lot of people are ruling as kind of a sweep or going to not be a close series. They might be a little bit wrong about that. Today we have the Washington Capitals and the New York Rangers playing each other in round one of the Stanley Cup playoffs. As you can tell, I'm actually not wearing any team today. I'm just wearing the plain shirt, Stadium Series hat, and I also have the jerseys in the back because I don't want to look biased here. I don't know why it looks sideways. It's kind of strange, but anywho. So, when you're looking at overall team stats in regards to these teams, we'll start with the New York Rangers. The Rangers, an excuse for all of the graphics on this. The Rangers went 55, 23, and 4 this season for 114 points. They are first in the NHL, which means they won the President's Trophy. They are 30, 11, and 0 at home, and they're 25, 12, and 4 on the road. So, a few things to keep in mind here. The Rangers are obviously the President's Trophy winner, which means they're cursed. I'm kidding. But it definitely means that this team is definitely one of the ones to look out for. They have been buzzing almost the entire season. There were a few points where you could look and say, yeah, there was some errors there. But regardless, this team has been going full stride the whole way through. And that is why they're first in the league this year. When you're looking at goal differential, they're 282 goals for, 229 goals against. So they have a pretty solid goal differential there of plus 59, I believe. They are 26.42% on the power play, which means they're third in the NHL in those rankings. And they're 84.5 on the penalty kill, which is third in the NHL as well. So they have pretty good penalty kill, and they have a pretty good power play. They're top three in both. So that's a team there. When you're playing them in special teams, you just don't. You don't want to play them in special teams. And this is a team that can really score on the power play. They're a team that can kill off penalties too. They're good on all fronts. So it definitely shows there that you do not want to play the Rangers on this power play. And that's why I was a little bit worried when my Flyers were battling for this wild card 2 spot. They take a lot of penalties, and I was a little bit worried that was going to happen. So, when you look at the opposing end, the Washington Capitals, the Capitals are a much different story than the Rangers. The Capitals are 40, 31, and 11 for 91 points. They are 17th in the NHL. They are 22, 12, and 7 at home, and they're 18, 19, and 4 on the road. So, I think an advantage here the Rangers have on the Capitals is that they have a really good home record, and the Caps on the road have been pretty subpar. They have. So that shows to me that definitely when you're looking at those end of things, the Rangers might have the advantage having home ice advantage. That could be something that really benefits them. But the Capitals, you should not count them out despite the negative goal differential, despite the negative playoff stats and the overall stats overall. They do have a negative goal differential, as I said. There are 220 goals for, 257 goals against. They are 20.6 power play percentage, is 17th in the NHL currently, and their 78.9 penalty kill percentage is 18th. So below average, just below average, but pretty subpar power play and penalty kill numbers there from the Capitals. So things to look out for when you're looking at Washington as a team. One thing that I've really noticed is they like to play a lot of low event hockey. They like to play a style of hockey that is much different than others, and it relies on scoring first. When they score the first goal of the game, it's hard to come back against them. And that is why they have won a lot of like 3-2, 4-3, 2-1 hockey games, because it's very hard to come back and beat them when they're down the way they are. Now, the split series between these two teams is 2-2. So it's been a relatively even matchup the entire season when these teams have played 4 times. So that is something to keep in mind there too. It might be closer than people may think. Just being honest here. When you look at leading scorers and individual stats, you got Artemi Panarin leading the way for the Rangers. Panarin, 82 games played, 49 goals, 71 assists for 120 points. I think it is undisputed. Panarin has been an amazing player this year. It seems like he's kind of put a chip on his shoulder, and even said today that the Rangers are cup or bust. If they don't win the Stanley Cup, then this season's a bust. So And I do think that this is probably the best year for the Rangers to go out and win a Stanley Cup. That is something that I've said in videos. I do believe it's true. And I think that if they're going to win it, it's going to have to be this year. When you're looking at the other end of things, you got Dylan Strome for the Capitals. 82 games played, 27 goals, 40 assists for 67 points. Strome is finally seeming to look like the player that we expected him to be on Arizona, like Chicago and Arizona. He is finally becoming that player, and he could be a guy who he's scoring at a pretty good rate, and could be a player who, when we look at them next season, when we look at them in the playoffs, he could score some clutch goals for the Capitals. So, again, as I said, it all relies on the Capitals scoring first. If the Capitals can score first and play their style of hockey, I do think they can at least take 1 or 2 games against the Rangers, but obviously, Strome is going to have to play a factor in that scoring. So definitely that is something I keep in mind there. Second in scoring for the Rangers is Vincent Trocheck. Trocheck with 82 games played, 25 goals, 52 assists for 77 points. Trocheck been a very effective number 1 center. I think as a guy for Trocheck, he's going to be a guy who's reliable for Panarin. He's going to be giving Panarin the puck a lot, and is going to be a guy who is really going to help out assisting Panarin. Has been a great 1C this year. On the other end, you got Alex Ovechkin, second in scoring for the Capitals. He has 79 games played, 31 goals, 34 assists for 65 points this season. Again, I think Ovechkin, he's had points where he's lacked, but really in the second half of the season, he's been really effective for the Washington Capitals, so he's someone to keep an eye out there for. When you look at Chris Kreider, who's third in scoring for the Capitals, for the Rangers, he has 82 games played, 39 goals, 36 assists for 75 points. Kreider, again, scoring at the rate that he always does, and has been a player who has been effective for the Rangers this year. And then John Carlson is actually on the other end for the Capitals when you're looking at third in scoring for them. 82 games played, 10 goals, 42 assists for 52 points. Carlson's been a big factor in why this team has made the playoffs, especially in that 2-0 win against Boston later in the season. That was a win that really pushed Washington into the playoffs and kind of asserted them as, yeah, they're going to be that second wildcard team. So Carlson playing a big role there. On the other end, though, you got Adam Fox for the Rangers. Fox with 72 games played, 17 goals, 56 assists for 73 points. And then on the other side, you got Tom Wilson. Wilson with 74 games played, 18 goals, 17 assists for 35 points. So, again, Fox has been a player who I think probably should be a Norris ballot. Has been one of the more effective defensemen for this team. Really helpful with Ryan Lindgren there, too, who we'll get into in a minute. And then, obviously, too, Tom Wilson will probably fight Matt Rempe at some point. That's gonna be something that I'm really looking forward to. So we'll see there if that happens, but obviously we'll find out. And then finally, fifth in scoring for each team is Mika Zibanejad for the Rangers. Zibanejad with 81 games played, 26 goals, 46 assists for 72 points. And then for the Capitals, you got Connor McMichael, actually, with 80 games played, 18 goals, 15 assists, 33 points. So Zibanejad, his scoring's been concerning. That has been something that I've been really concerned with Zibanejad. I do think that overall, I think he will do better in the playoffs, but I think that the scoring this year has been down for him. So we'll obviously see there if Zibanejad can bring that to the playoffs. And then McMichael, I mean, he has been a guy who was drafted a few years ago and is now starting to really take his own. I think 33 points for a guy like him is pretty solid, but considering the fact that the Rangers' fifth leading scorer is 72 points, and the Capitals has 33, yeah, that shows that the Rangers overall have better depth and better offensive star power than the Capitals do. Many have been arguing the Capitals are the worst playoff team ever. I think it's definitely up for debate. I definitely could make a video on that for sure. But I do think there were a lot of teams that were way worse back in the 80s and 90s that made the playoffs because of the way the divisions were. So regardless, take that with what you will. But those are your individual numbers when you look at skaters. Other guys I want to keep in mind is deadline acquisitions. Now, the Capitals didn't really have any. They traded away guys. They didn't get anyone back in return that was of note, per se. The Rangers did, though. They got Alex Wennberg, who Wennberg has been a good, what looks like third liner, secondary scorer on the Rangers. If they can get him going, I do think he can score some clutch goals for them in the playoffs. And then you got Jack Roslovic, too. Roslovic's been a guy who has scored a little bit down the stretch at the end of the season. Hopefully he can do so against the Capitals. But if he can get those guys going at some good secondary scoring, this team could be pretty good. As I said again, the Capitals didn't really have that many guys that were notable, that were deadline acquisitions. When you look at other guys that I want to say here, you got Ryan Lindgren Lindgren for the Rangers, who has been again another player who will lay his body on the line for the Rangers. Doesn't seem to miss a game. Always a great defensive defenseman. Definitely needs to be kept in mind there. Matt Rempe. Rempe's been fighting a lot. I think him and Wilson will go at it at this point here in some games. And then Philip Hedl too. Hedl might come back. There's a chance that by the playoffs, Philip Hedl might be playing hockey again. So we'll see if that obviously comes to fruition. But Hedl has been good this year in the games he's played. But it's been a struggle for him, especially too with injuries. Other guys for the Capitals that I did want to mention, Max Pacioretty. Pacioretty's been a guy who, even though the scoring hasn't been there, I still do think he's played well for the Capitals necessarily. So, Pacioretty's a name to keep there in mind. Ivan Miroshnichenko as well, I think is a player who has come up and has played well this year for the Capitals. Also, guys like Alexei Protas, Martin Fehervary. There's been plenty of players this year from Washington who have come up from the Hershey Bears system and have played really well in the NHL system. So, keep that in mind there when you're looking at the Capitals. When you get into your goaltending, in the crease is what I'm calling it this year. So, you got Igor Shesterkin on the first end for the Rangers. Shesterkin with a 36-17-2 record, a 2.58 goals against average, and a .913 save percentage. On the other end, you got Charlie Lindgren. Lindgren with a 25-16-7 record, a 2.67 and a .911. So, even though I do think Shesterkin is the better of the two goalies, I am going to say that you don't want to count Lindgren out because Lindgren was lights out when you're looking down the stretch for the Capitals. Down the stretch when they were getting hot, Lindgren was lights out. And I think that, too, this is kind of comparable to the Florida and Bruins matchup from last year. Although I do think Florida was a really good 8th seed. I don't know if the Capitals necessarily a really good 8th seed. We'll see, though, if the Capitals can pull off the upset here against the Rangers. However, I'm taking Rangers in